Sonic X is one of the most popular pieces of Sonic media out there. If it wasn't for the fact that 4Kids got the rights to show it on their network back in the day, I probably would never even be a Sonic fan. Yeah, I've touched the games every now and then, but I didn't really know any of these characters. As the years go on, everyone has their own favorite version of Sonic, and everyone has their own story of how they even got into this franchise. So I am aware that there are plenty of people who probably never even seen the show and just heard about it through the grapevines. But because Sonic X is still this weird anomaly to me, I couldn't help but ask the big question, which is the title of the video: what if Sonic X actually came back? This is a new series I'm going to be trying on the channel. For those who don't know me, hi, I'm 100 Hypersonic. For this series, I'm basically going to be writing as if I'm trying to pitch this show to some producer, and they gave me the rights to pretty much make the show almost exactly how I want it. And because of that, before I get into the meat and potatoes of this whole thing, I want to talk about how I would like the show to be made. The first season was pretty much slice of life, and it had its own little original story threads in there. The second season was basically an adaptation of the adventure games. It also had the ML story from the Sonic Battle game. And the third and final season had another original storyline with the Metarex and Cosmo. I really like the format, and I think I'm going to follow it when I'm doing the story. It's not going to be a carbon copy, obviously, but I do want to at least follow the same pattern. With that said, I also think it would be great if the show could get 3 seasons just like the original. A 4th or 5th season wouldn't really hurt, but 3 is really what I would be fighting for. Now, on to the animation. I don't really have a preference on what studio I would want to animate it personally, but so I'll throw a couple on screen. If I were to go into details, I would like something that could somewhat resemble the original show's art style, but also be something a bit more modern at the same time. It would also be great if the animators could get an art style that would be easy for them to animate for later fight scenes, as that is one complaint I do remember some people had quite often with the original. Now, as for the characters themselves and their personalities, I do think that it would be wise just keep the personalities as accurate to the original Sonic X as possible, with a couple of noticeable exceptions. For example, I think Sonic X Sonic, that's a weird sentence to say, is probably the most laid back. At times it feels like he wants to just be left alone if Eggman isn't involved, though that could just be that he had to deal with kids a lot. And if we move on to the voice actors, because I'm viewing this more of a revival / continuation instead of a reboot, I also would love if we could get as many of the Sonic X voice actors back as possible, but at the same time, realistically thinking, I know that's probably not going to happen. The one person I would try my best to get back to reprise their role would definitely be Jason Griffith, either as Shadow or as Sonic. And for anyone who's a huge fan of Roger's portrayal of Sonic, don't worry, I actually have a few ideas on how we can bring him into the show. And finally, the music. I know so many people would love it if we could get the music from the games, specifically in the second season when we start going in to some of the video game adaptations. I would also like to add that if we could get a composer, doesn't really matter who it is, who could create some of the music score beats from the dub soundtrack, that would be great too. This is just a personal thing for me. And the theme song. So I think if we could get a really cool song that matches the energy of Gotta Go Fast, it'd be really good, and it could pump people up to watch the show every episode. However, I also get if you would rather just have Gotta Go Fast play again. It'll mainly be up to you at that point. Let me know what you guys would prefer down below. Now we can finally get started with episode 1. Our scene starts off in a beautiful grassy field, and then out of nowhere, a blue flash of light zooms across the screen, signifying Sonic's first appearance. Sonic is on his way to Tails' lab. A couple of years has passed since the ending of the original Sonic X. This isn't supposed to be some haha meta-commentary on how much time has passed in the real world since the original show's ending, but we can't acknowledge that it has been a minute. While surprised at first, Tails is happy that his best friend decided to come check on him. We get a little shot of Tails' lab, including a little memorial that he has on the side for Cosmo. Sonic then asks Tails what he's working on, which Tails tries to explain in a way where Sonic can understand, and he's basically explaining that he has a dimensional communicator that they use to pretty much stay in contact with Blaze, also implying that even though she hasn't been on screen yet, they have met Blaze the cat in between seasons. And the reason behind this is, while yes, they want to talk to their friend whenever they can, they also want her help in looking for Shadow. Because at the end of Sonic X, Shadow basically sacrificed himself a second time, but some of his friends don't believe he's really gone, and are trying to find a way to bring him home. They make some more small talk and friendly banter, and then Tails ends up mentioning that Amy is around the area looking for him. Sonic makes a joke. Sonic thanks him for the heads up before bolting out of there, which unfortunately means Tails is going to have to hear it from Amy when she realizes that he let him get away. In the meantime, Tails decides to get back to work. A little bit later, Sonic is starting to think how it has been a little too quiet lately, and he thinks that he should probably start looking for the Chaos Emeralds in case they need them later on. As he's thinking this, he sees a light falling from the sky, and he tries to go check it out. While it is still pretty far, he's able to tell that it looks like a person, and he tries to book it so he can catch whoever this is. And Sonic can tell at the rate it's falling that they're gonna land in the water, which is bad because Sonic can't swim. He takes a few seconds to panic until he spots a ring and tries to get a little extra momentum. He then runs as fast as his legs will carry him with the ring so he can try to run on water so he can catch whoever it is. He's just barely able to pull it off, and then makes a quick U-turn to try to get back to the surf shore. Sonic takes a moment to comment how he's never going to do that ever again. He then examines the person that he found, and it appears to be a human girl. This is clearly going to be our stand-in for Chris Thorndyke. She's wearing some baggy clothes, and she is still breathing, but she's just unconscious. Sonic then decides that it's best to bring her over to Tails and explain to them what happened. However, this time Amy is there, and she does give Sonic a bit of an earful, or he's eventually able to calm her down and tells her what just happened. Amy reminds everyone how when Chris tried to go over to their world, something went wrong and he ended up coming back in a child's body. And the same thing probably happened with this girl. And for those who don't remember, they couldn't actually stay in Chris's world. It was a major plot point at the end of the second season. However, it shouldn't really be an issue, and she brought up all they had to do was basically send her back home, and then the problem should be solved. However, Tails brings up that he doesn't think it's that simple. While she was yelling at Sonic, he took note of the clothes she was wearing and brought up that no one in Chris's world wore an outfit anywhere similar to it, which does beg the question, where did she come from? Tails explains that ever since he met Blaze, he started to become more interested in the concept of different universes besides theirs. So far, they only know of 3, Chris's world, their world, and Blaze's world. But that doesn't mean that they're the only ones. Though the process of finding out exactly how many different dimensions there are is extremely slow, he is positive that they could find whatever world this child came from. Once he's able to figure that out, he shouldn't have too much problem sending her back. The girl does eventually wake up, and she seems a little scared and timid around Tails and Amy, but she does seem somewhat fond of Sonic, or at least comfortable enough to be around him, because when the others gets too close, she does tend to hide around Sonic. Tails tries to explain this situation to the best of his ability, in a way that she'll understand, and then asks if the girl knows where she came from, and how she ended up there. She then responds that she doesn't remember, and Amy asks Tails if she has amnesia or something. He doesn't rule out the possibility, and then Sonic asks the girl what her name is. She's a bit hesitant to answer still, but eventually says that her name is Melissa. Sonic promises that he's going to find a way to get her back home, then suggests that they go look for the Chaos Emeralds. And while he's out and about, he's going to go hunt down Eggman in case he has anything to do with this. Also, if this is anything like what happened with Chris, then she can't stay here for too long or they're all in danger. Melissa doesn't want Sonic to leave, but he assures her that Amy and Tails are 2 really good friends of his and she should be safe around them. There's no reason for her to be scared. While still hesitant, she does trust Sonic enough to let him go, and then Sonic heads out. Eggman's portion really could be its own episode, but I think his first scene could go fairly quickly, depending on how it's executed. After everything that went down with the space adventures with the Metarex, he starts to monologue to himself about how he needs to find new ways to rebuild his Eggman empire, but he keeps losing to Sonic. So instead of dragging out his ideas and going back and forth with his henchmen and trying to figure out if they'll work or not, he comes up with a new idea to basically run a personal simulation so he can get a 100% accuracy rundown of if he'll be able to defeat Sonic and then go forward with his plans afterwards. His way of achieving this goal is he basically builds himself a clone of Sonic in which he can test out his plans. And this is basically how we get Metal Sonic. For those of you who don't know, Metal Sonic never actually showed up in the Sonic X TV show. We don't know if he already appeared beforehand, off screen. We can basically use this as our own way to introduce Metal Sonic into the franchise. Once Metal Sonic is shown to us at the end of the monologue, Eggman activates him immediately and then does a couple of trials. This is basically Eggman going back and forth with a couple of banter between him and Metal Sonic. Metal Sonic doesn't have to do everything Sonic would do exactly yet, because he was just activated a couple seconds ago. And that's the point of this test. He needs to know if it will work or if he needs to go back to the drawing board. And you could even add a bit of comedy to this segment, which is honestly what I'm going for. Eggman could get a little upset about how Metal Sonic is responding. Like, Sonic wouldn't say that, he would do this. No, Sonic wouldn't do that, he would do this. Okay, you're saying what Sonic would say, but you're saying it all wrong. And as it goes on, he gets a little too into this experiment. And he doesn't take note that Sonic has actually already entered his lab and is looking for him. When Sonic does finally enter the room, he is a little creeped out seeing that Eggman made a robot version of him and he's talking to himself. I'd say playing with it, but yeah. And now that the scene is awkward, Eggman can comedically fumble over himself, trying to explain that this isn't what it looks like or something. And Sonic can just speak up finally and ask the question. So we found this human girl. She fell out of the sky. That wasn't you, right? Eggman, while confused, then answers that he's been in his lab all day working on Metal Sonic, so no, it wasn't him. Sonic then responds that he's just gonna go then, trying to not make eye contact with Metal Sonic. Now feeling completely embarrassed, Eggman shuts down Metal Sonic and throws him in the basement with all of his other rejected projects. The camera then pans over and we get to see an image of Omega, which brings an end to our first episode. If you guys like what you see, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll make more. I do already have the first season already planned out, but I wanted to test the waters because this is a new idea for the channel, and I can upload more episodes later on as we tackle characters like Knuckles, Cream, and all the others, including the fact that we can properly introduce Blaze later on. We also have the mysterious new character, and of course, what happened to Shadow and where is he now? Well, I'm 100 Hypersonic, and I'll see you guys next time.
Quickest hedgehog around. Got ourselves a situation, stuck in a new location without any explanation. No time for relaxation.